Alright guys, we're going to take this first block letter super slow. You want to grab a pencil, a scrap piece of paper, and a colorful marker. With your pencil, you want to draw a medium-sized K, because that's the letter we're starting with. After you draw your letter K with your pencil, you want to pick up your marker. I'm using pink. You want it to be different colors so you can really see what's going on. And then at the end of every point on my letters, letter K has 4, I'm going to make a short horizontal line, but I do want to make sure that my horizontal lines are long enough to extend outside of that point. Then I am taking my marker and I'm going to start tracing around the letter. So I am connecting the ends of all of my horizontal lines. I'm going very slow. One reason why I'm going super slow is because I do not want my marker to touch my pencil. If that happens, that means that I am moving way too fast, and it's going to be very hard for me to do the next step if I get too close to that pencil. So you almost want to make sure that pencil is kind of like a danger zone. You don't want to get too close to it. And I am taking all of my lines, going very slow and connecting them. You will start to see your block letter forming as you continue to work. The short lines are really easy to do. You just have to be careful when you get really close in the inside to slow down. Then I'm going to move on to my next line, going super slow. And I have 2 more lines to do. So I'm going to take this outer edge and go in. Make sure I'm staying away from that pencil and not going too far in. And then I'm taking my last line and going straight down. Now I can definitely see my red block letter, but I still have the K in the inside, and we actually don't want that to be in the inside of our letter, so we're going to erase the K. Watch the magic. And you have your first block letter. Now the letter K is not the easiest letter or the hardest letter to do. It's kind of in the middle, so we're going to keep practicing. Don't worry if you didn't quite get that one down. All right, let's practice the letter A. So with my pencil, I'm going to draw the letter A. Then remember, at every point, I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to add a horizontal line. So there's a point at the top of the letter A and 2 points at the bottom. And then remember, we're just going to take our marker and trace around the outside of the letter, remembering to stay away from the danger zone. Keep some space in between that marker and the pencil. When we go into our letter, we want to make sure that we're not going too far in. And then the letter A actually has a little hole right here. Now we don't want to ignore that spot. It almost looks like a triangle. So I'm just going to take 3 little dots and make a triangle. And then I'm going to connect those dots. And now my red marker actually looks like a block letter. So I'm going to erase my pencil, and that is the letter A. All right, guys, this should be getting a little bit easier now. The next letter we're going to work on is the letter T. I want to draw that with my pencil. This one's super easy, but there's a difference. When you get ready to do your marker, normally we would put our lines as horizontal lines on the end of our dots, but some letters you have to put vertical lines, like the letter T. So this one is going to be 2 vertical lines. Then we're going to start connecting them around the edges, remembering to stay away from that pencil. That is the danger zone. You want to have some space in between. That makes it easy for you to erase in the inside. All right, and then my favorite part is actually erasing that pencil. Boom, letter T. Now we just did the easy letter, so now we're going to go back to the hard ones. And one of the hardest letters is the letter B. The reason why the letter B is hard is because it has 2 of those open spaces and it's very curvy. And sometimes the curvy letters can be hard. So you're going to draw your B with a pencil. Make sure it's big enough for you to practice. And then we are going to grab our marker. Now, with the marker, we want to be very careful where we start. I always like to start on the longest side. That is the easiest side for me. So you'll notice I'm not doing those horizontal lines yet. I'm just going to draw a really long line that extends just a little bit outside of the edge of that B. That is where I want to start with this letter. And then you'll notice there aren't any more straight lines. We have curvy lines. So I'm just going to take the top of my marker line and I'm going around. That almost looks like the number 3. And we want to make sure that we are still staying far away from that pencil line so that we can have a nice letter. Next, you'll notice that the letter B has 2 of those little empty spots. We do not want to ignore these because if we just erase that B, it will not look like the block letter we want. So we're going to go in. The inside of those spots almost looks like the letter D, a capital D. And so remembering to stay away from the pencil as much as we can, I'm just going to make 2 letter D's in the inside. And now we're actually ready to start erasing our pencil. So I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase that B in the inside. And this should be easy if we make sure that we stayed away from that pencil. And that is our block letter B. Now, if some of you are still struggling with making block letters, I want to show you a trick. I imagine that some people are having a hard time with drawing around the letter that's making a block letter. So I'm going to show you an example of what happens when you draw too close to the pencil. So I'm taking my marker, I'm going very, very close to the pencil. There is no space in between that at all. Then in the inside, I have to remember to do my letter D's for my B. And then this is where the problem happens. When it's time for me to erase, you'll notice it's so hard for me to get in and get that pencil because I did it way too close. And it was also very hard to draw around that too. So you really want to make sure that you leave that space in between because it can get very, very difficult. All right, we're going to practice one more letter together. Just like the letter T, as in Tommy, the letter Z also uses vertical lines on the ends of where the letter starts and finishes. And you don't want to forget those other 2 points either. Those 2 points matter. So I'm also going to put 2 vertical lines there. And then I want to start connecting. So I'm going very slow, remembering to stay away from that pencil, leave some space, and you'll slowly start to see your block letter form. Remember to go slow. Take your time. It is not a race. And we have one more line. Boom. And now for my favorite part, we get to erase the pencil in the inside. And now you have your letter Z. You can definitely keep practicing if you want to, but now we're going to start on the project. All right, so we're going to start the project. If you would imagine that the white in my background is the size of my paper, you'll notice how big the letter R is. So I have sped up the process a little bit and I've already made my block letter. Now for the fun part, I want to take a Sharpie and trace around my block letter, and I want to use that Sharpie to add some designs and details. So I'm going to think of all of these different types of lines that I can use. Take a look around the room to find different types of lines that you can use. So diagonal lines could work, dotted lines, zigzag lines, anything that you think would look interesting could work. So I'm going to finish decorating my R. Now that my letter R is done, I want to start working on the outside. So I'm simply going to take some rectangles and place them around the outside of my letter R. You don't have to use rectangles. You can use whatever shape that you would like to frame your letter. Circles would be cool, squares, diamonds, any type of shape that you think would be interesting, you can definitely use. I like how the rectangles look, so I decided to stick with those. All right, and now for the fun part, we're going to use even more line. So now I'm going to think of some different types of lines to use to frame the outside of my letter. So when I say frame, that means that these lines are going to kind of trace around the shape of my letter. You'll notice after a while you won't be able to reach around the top and around the bottom because you're going to run out of space. That is totally fine. Just use the space that you have. So I'm going to decorate mine. You feel free to take some of my ideas or use your own. Before you start to add color, of course, you can go over your pencil with Sharpie to make really bold lines. Just make sure that if you're using Sharpie, you put something underneath your paper. And after you add your color, that is the final step. I really hope you guys enjoyed this project and I can't wait to see what you create. All right, guys, bye.